All right. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American now living in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And if you want to know about the news that's been going on around the continent of Africa over the last 7 days, 7 to 14 days, then this is the video for you. All right. We are live. We're live. New ring light, new location, same host. As always, let me know if you guys can hear me. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Give me a thumbs up so I know you can hear me. And also let me know where you're watching from. Give me a thumbs up so I know you can hear me, and let me know where you're watching from. We're live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, a couple of YouTube channels. We're live on Twitch, and we are live. Okay, so Sean Brinkley says, yes, you can hear me. I see, bro, we can hear you. That's, is it Johnny Wade? Okay. Where are you guys watching from? Let me know you guys. Okay, so Johnny Wade is from Washington, Seattle, Washington. Shout out to Seattle, Washington. I co-own some property out in that area of the country of the United States. We got Sean Brinkley from Baltimore, Maryland. Just for Kim said you can hear me. Cool. Sherrod Granger is from Louisiana. Asta says yes, all the way from Cape Town. Shout out to Cape Town. Yona from Dubai. Real Estate Mogul J from DC. Let's see. Viva Mikey says, I can hear you from San Francisco. Troy with PLP from Oakland, California. Scorpion King from St. Louis. Let's see. 110 Lester, I can hear you from Syracuse. Fun fact, Syracuse is on my list of schools to go to. The year that Mello went to Syracuse, I was thinking about it. Sean Brinkley said Africa's waking up. Africa seems to be waking up. All right, cool. We got Manelik here on YouTube. What's up, Manelik? What's going on? You can hear me? Cool. So YouTube can hear me. You got Juan Pablo from Valencia, Spain. Shout out to Juan from Valencia. Samara's in the house. What's up, Samara? Long time no see. I already know from the UK. Let's see who else we got. Cynthia Parker just joined. Blossom 133 just joined. All right, cool. Anne-Marie Harding from London is here, and you can hear me. Great. If you guys are watching on Instagram, I'm not live on TikTok today, and you guys want to follow along with what's on screen, and you want to see the comments on screen because it's a little tough to see the Instagram, you can click on the link in my profile, and it'll say join me live on YouTube, and you can join me live on YouTube and watch along live. We're gonna today. The last 24 hours have been really crazy, and this is not the live to talk about it, so I won't be talking about what exactly happened in the last 24 hours. If I have permission to talk about it, maybe we'll talk about it if it's going to be useful to talk about next week. But a lot's happened personally in the last 24 hours. So today has been a crazy day. So we're going to go live as usual. You know, the show must go on. But I will be looking at my Instagram, and we'll just go through some of the stories I posted on the Instagram and go through it that way. We'll do a little bit on the presentation, the PowerPoint as usual, but I didn't have time to put all the slides together. And as I said, we'll talk about it later. All right, let's see some of the other people who have joined. Let me just acknowledge some other people. We got San Jose Realtor JS is obviously calling in from watching from San Jose. Lester says my heart belongs in South Africa. Shout out to you. What do you think about Julius Malema? Let me hear your thoughts. Sean Brinkley says South Africa will elect a guy who's not America's puppet. I love world powers are shaking. All right, so we know where you stand. That was Sean Brinkley. Shout out to MDD who just joined. Okay, cool. So let's get into today's content. We got a good enough group of folks. We're not live on TikTok today. I'm using my ring lights. This is my own personal ring light. I had been borrowing someone else's ring light for quite some time, but now I'm using my own ring light. However, I left one of the pieces at home. So that means that I'm unable to go live on as many devices as I'd like. So this device I'm not live on. I'm only live on my so I'm not live on TikTok. I'm only live on Instagram and then some of the others. All right, but we're gonna get right into it. This is probably gonna be a little bit of a shorter live, but I want to go through some stories, get your thoughts, talk through some things before I get up out of here. I have some phone calls to make afterwards. There's a lot going on in life. It's crazy. Manelik says, like, tag, and share. And by the way, shout out to Manelik, who did all the timestamps. This guy right here first of all, does a lot of the different timestamps for a lot of the lives that I do. But he not only did the timestamps for all the comments, but he did the timestamps for all of the topics that I covered. So if you ever see one of my lives as a replay and you see the timestamps all the way through, they're almost always an hour and a half. It's either Koiva, but more frequently Manelik. And so I just want to shout out Manelik for your support of the channel and always helping out with, doing the timestamps, because obviously it's a lot to do. I myself am not able to do it. So I appreciate you doing it. So Mo Roberts says, what's this live about? This live is about the news around the continent of Africa. So we're going to run through a couple of different things. But before we do, let's see if there's any other questions, comments, thoughts from people around the world. I think we covered Dubai, France, South Africa, a couple places in the States, Spain. So a number of different people from around the world joining. So I'm happy to see you guys all here. Miss P's here. What's up, Miss P? All right. So I'm gonna get into this, and then we're gonna get right into the live info. So let's go ahead and put this up. Let's see. Let me share my screen. Again, if you guys are watching on Instagram and you want to see what's on my screen, just go to my profile, click the link in my profile. It'll take you to my link tree. The top of the link tree has a link there that says join me on YouTube Live right now. Just click on that. That'll take you right to the YouTube Live. All right. So Mo Roberts said, can viewers speak or just text chat? For right now, they can just text chat. I haven't gone live with anyone in a while. I might do that at the end here, potentially. But I'd have to invite you, have to email you. It's a process. It's a little bit of a process. So I think for right now, we'll just go live. Wow, Hashim is in the building under Sylvia's channel. What's up, Hashim? Hashim is one of our younger viewers here in Sierra Leone. I've known Hashim for a while, more than half his life, believe it or not. What's up, Hashim? Hashim was the person who told me to do the thank you video when I hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. When I was in France last year, walking down the street, and I did my thank you video. If anybody saw that, Hashim was the one who recommended I do it. And so I still need to do one for 10,000 subscribers. So that's coming in a week, because I do have to thank you all for helping me get to that point. And we're now at 11,000 actually. So you guys have all been a part of that. All right, so let me start presenting the screen here. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. PowerPoint slides. So we are live, and let me know if you guys can see my screen. You should be able to see my screen. Looks like you can see it. Cool. And again, if you guys are joining on Instagram and you want to see what's on my screen, just click on the link in my profile. That'll take you to watching the YouTube Live. And there's a couple comments that I will get to in a second. What's up, Tay? Tay from Atlanta joined. So we're going to get to in a second. I know Tay from the life in LA. And now she lives in Atlanta, ATL. All right, cool. So first I want to shout out Pearl Hotel. And I haven't done this recently. You guys have asked about the videos. So the guys at Pearl Hotel, specifically Mars, who's been really helpful, because Sierra Leone, we have our challenges with light in terms of our electricity, and the power has been going out frequently. And also I need really good internet. And so Pearl Hotel is where I come to do work and go live. And Mars has been really, really helpful in that. And so I did interview Mars, and we did a tour of the penthouse suite. I'm not in the penthouse suite right now. I'm in another room. But usually I'm in the penthouse, going live from the penthouse suite. And, you know, in general, the internet's just a little bit better from here than it has been in some of the other locations that I've been in. So I want to shout out Mars and also the videos that I did. So if you guys want to know more about Pearl Hotel, you can hear more from Mars and his story. He moved from the Philippines to Sierra Leone. And his story is a really interesting one. And he's been managing Pearl Hotel for, I think, like 6 years now. He's been here for 8 years. I think he's been managing it for 6. So you hear his story, what it's like, you know, as a foreigner running a business here. I think that's useful for those of you who are Westerners who are planning to start and run businesses in this country, to kind of hear what his experience has been like. And then, of course, he took us on a tour of the penthouse suite. And so both of those videos are here on the screen. So if you want to check those out, definitely go watch those. And so, yeah, he's been gracious enough to allow me to use the rooms here to go live. And he also is starting a YouTube channel, which I'll share with you guys all later when the time comes. And he's really big on supporting Sierra Leone and showing the different aspects of Sierra Leone. So there's a little bit of overlap in the content that we do. But he has like a really professional film crew and like really good stuff. So I'm looking forward to maybe having him back on and sharing some content with you guys. All right, cool. The content that's come out as of recent. So last Thursday, I posted the hotel in the interview with Dori Masi Toure, who is one half of the ownership of Stafford Lodge. She's a Black American living here in Sierra Leone. She moved here with her husband before she actually did her ancestry, when she found out she actually is of Sierra Leonean descent. So it all kind of came full circle. But she's running the hotel Stafford Lodge, and she does have Salon Hidden Gems, which is one of the tour companies that bring you along to get your citizenship if you do your African ancestry and you are of Sierra Leonean heritage. So definitely recommend checking out this interview. It's a really good story. She went to an HBCU in Alabama. Her whole story is a really interesting one. So I think you guys will really find it interesting. So definitely check out that interview with her. And you get to hear from someone who is culturally American, right? Many of you guys are culturally American, don't have maybe the same background I have, where I have 2 parents from Sierra Leone. So I had a little bit of an understanding what it might be like here, even though it's still a little bit of a shock. I still understand Creole. And so like the transition to speaking Creole and moving through the country is a little bit easier for me with relatives and whatnot. And so hearing from her, I think, is really helpful. And then we do a tour of the hotel. So if you guys want to get a chance to see what the hotel looks like, check that out. I actually did that today. I posted that today, a couple of hours ago. So if you want to see the hotel tour, you can go ahead and check that out on the channel. So it's there. And then on Thursday or Friday or sometime this weekend, we are going to start the posts from the Gambia. You guys have been asking me about the Gambia, and it was an amazing week. And I got a lot of content to share with you. Got some edits we're working on. I got another edit I need to receive today, and another one that's going to be later this week. And we're going to start rolling those videos out. So I'm really looking forward to sharing you guys, you know, what that experience has been like, or what was that experience was like with Visit Sierra Leone. And then I'm also going to share the interview with Bimbala, the CEO of Visit Sierra Leone. So real quick, going back to the interview that I was talking about from earlier this week, Will said I went through her company and received my citizenship. So Will went through Salon Hidden Gems and got a citizenship in Sierra Leone. So there is an example of somebody who's recently done it. Cool. All right. So that is that. So that's what you can expect. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, all of the above. Get this out to as many people as possible. The goal is to get people to move, visit, invest, or all three. But the goal is to really help us get Africa back to its rightful place on the world stage. Sierra Leone being one of the countries that was in the early days where folks went to get their post-secondary education. Universities in Sierra Leone, specifically Farabe College, FBC, was known all around West Africa. And, you know, the goal is to help with this generation of folks to help us get back to where we were. And that's the goal of the platform. And I'm looking for all of you guys to help us do that. All right, cool. So we're going to go through some of the services really quickly. There are a lot of new people here. Not everybody is familiar with me. And so I like to go through my services, what I offer to people, and what this platform is all about. So really quickly, I do have some consulting services. So if you are planning to move or visit Ghana, I can help you with that. Airport concierge services, any local needs, local recommendations, hotels, restaurants, nightlife, all of that stuff. I lived in Ghana for 2 years. I can help you with that. I also have partnerships with folks that can help you with your residency services, making sure your business is feasible if you want to start a business in Ghana, and then helping you register your businesses. In terms of real estate, I have many connections in the real estate market in Ghana because I rented a bunch of places. I know people who bought land and who built houses. And so I have access to folks to help you through that process. Sierra Leone consulting services, very similar services. So sitting Sierra Leone, all kinds of different things we can help with: airport transfer, visa facilitation, vehicle rentals, tours, all that kind of stuff, hotel reservations, etc. Moving to Sierra Leone, so purchasing vehicles, resident permits, work permits, visitor visas, passport renewals, all of that stuff I can help with, or through my partnerships. And then buying land in Sierra Leone, I can consult on that process. As you guys know, I've bought a couple of pieces of land in the past. We were going through the process of buying land this year, and I can help you through that process if you are looking to buy land. Okay. If you want to find out how to do that, just book a private one-on-one session with me on my link tree, either on Instagram or TikTok, or that link will be in the description of this YouTube video. But yeah, just click on book private one-on-one, 1 hour long consultation. You can either book a consultation for all of these things we just talked about, or actually, this is what people are saying. So really quickly, Aisha Ladan, somebody I did one with, she shouted me out on her IG. And then Anita Howard also shouted me out. I'm not going to read everything they said because I read it last week, but you guys know what it says and you can see it here. But I also do social media consulting, right? As you guys know, I built quite a substantial platform. We're at over 185,000 across all platforms. We're over 11,000 on YouTube. We're over 19,500 on TikTok. We're over 132K on Instagram, Twitter, right around 6K. And then some of the other platforms as well. But you add them all together, it's over 180K. And so I can help you guys figure out what your strategy should be for building your own social media platform. Same thing, book a one-on-one session with me. You can just click on one-on-one session for social media, or you can book a one-on-one session for moving to Africa consultation. All right, then I have influencer services, all the kinds of services. You can email me for that. We don't need to go into that. Traveling to Tanzania. Traveling to Tanzania, or Tanzania, some people like to say, October 7th through the 16th. If you guys want to go on this trip, it's with Maximum Impact and Jay Cameron and his crew. I'm really looking forward to this. Somebody recently asked me about this, if I would go on a trip with Maximum Impact. And the answer is yes, I'm going on a trip with Maximum Impact. So if you guys want to come on this trip, just click on the link in my profile that says Authentic African East African Adventure. And that'll take you to all the details of that. I'm going to Kenya later this year with Traverse Culture and the crew, and that's Kia Wakesho Simmons and her crew. And if you want to find out more about that, just click on the Join Me in Kenya for New Year's. All right. I also do Instagram marketing. If you have a brand, you want to get your brand out there in front of my audience, the 131,000 on Instagram or across the other platforms, we can talk about it. Whether you have a real estate development, which I'm talking to someone right now about, or if you have books that you want to sell, 360 Books. It was D360 Books recently did a promotion. Drizzlick did a promotion recently, one of our Sierra Leonean artists, and a few other folks have done some promotions as of recent. So if you want to promote your brand through my platform, here are the different ways that you can do that. All right. So, and you can just email me at authenticafricanlife@gmail.com if you want to do that. All right, cool. So that is everything we're going to cover on that front. Now I want to get into the news of the last couple of weeks. There's a lot that we can cover, and because today, the last 24 hours has been really crazy, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Just know that it's been an unbelievable 24 hours, and we will talk about it at some point in time in the future when the time is right. But it is hard to describe. It is hard to describe what has happened. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. But we'll talk about it, and just be prepared to hear it, because It's crazy. But in the meantime, so really quickly, Voyages with Shaisha said, "Hey Joe, watching from Michigan. What's up, Shaisha?" All right, so okay, so all right, let's talk about the most recent news story. I think this one's an interesting one. People have been talking about it a lot. There's been a lot of coups around the continent of Africa, right? And I think it might be okay. Let's actually start with the coups, the number of coups, where and how many. We can start on that topic since that's been the topic of discussion. What I think is interesting too, and I want to hear from you guys on this one. There's been a lot of people on IG. If you're on IG, it's going to be hard for me to see your comments. So if you want for me to see your comments, definitely jump over to the YouTube by clicking on the link in my profile. But this has been an interesting conversation. I have different belief systems from different people, right? So some people who I talk to from the continent of Africa are excited about the idea of coups. There's folks that have been in leadership for 30 plus years. They feel like there have been no changes in their country. And they feel like a coup is the only way to usher in new leadership and hope that there is change. I talk to other folks that say you kind of need a benevolent dictator to be in the role for a really long time to really be able to turn things around, because it takes a long time. Or people who stay in office for extended periods of time. For instance, in Rwanda, right? We've all seen Rwanda's turnaround. They had a genocide, civil war, whatever you want to call it. And Rwanda now is one of the top 10 places that people want to visit on the continent of Africa. So they've really turned things around. And, you know, the president of Rwanda has been in place for, I think, 20 something years, if I'm not mistaken, or at least over 20 something years. And then there are other places where you have folks that are past their prime, we'll say. And I'll be posting one of these, but at the America Africa Summit in November, there was an older gentleman from a country I will not name who was not aware of where he was. He flatulated a few times. It was just embarrassing to see someone who just didn't have all their faculties, but that person's running a country. And so, you know, that conversation I've had with someone, and that person, the person who I had that conversation with was like, I'd love to see a coup in that country. I myself don't want to be in a country where a coup occurs, right? That to me is a little bit scarier than for those of you who are separated from the continent, who are cheering on coups. I think it's a lot easier to say, I'd love to see a coup when you're not there. But military rule is not everything you might think it is. Right? There is definitely a difference between whether you agree with the version of democracy that is in place on the continent or not. There's a difference between that and military rule. And there have been some coups that have led to military dictators that have been who used the death as a penalty for speaking out against them. Specifically in the Gambia, prior to this last coup, their last military leader, who was a part of a coup, was known to sentence people to death for disagreeing with them. Many different families, people died at the hands of that military leader, and it's something they talk about, which you'll see in the videos that I put out about the Gambia when I went to the National Museum. But you know, this is something that happened, and so I think that we should there's nuances to all of these things, right? And we understand that there are some leaders that we don't necessarily agree with, but I'm not always going to be of the opinion that they should be forcibly ousted by military leaders and military rule. And so with that context, let's get into this discussion. So I'm just gonna take you guys to my Instagram page because that's the easiest thing to do, because that's where I posted most of this stuff. So let's see here. Here's the IG page. So by the way, if you're not already following, let's just quickly show you. Let's get to following. This is it's authentic_African on YouTube. If you don't already follow, definitely follow. All right, so let's talk about the coups. So this particular post right here. Now, in West Africa, there have been 8 successful coups since 2020, which is excessive in West Africa. There's been 8 successful coups since 2020. On the continent of Africa, there have been 10 successful coups since 2019. And it seems as though this coup in Ghana is a successful coup. It seems, sorry, not Ghana, Gabon. It seems that it's gone through and it's become one, right? So that I have it listed here. And so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that and you guys see this post because I did post this so that you guys could see it. Look, I think there's a couple things to think about, right? So in Guinea, there was one in September 2021. Mali had two. They had one in August of 2020 and another one in May of 2021. Burkina Faso had one in January and then in September of 2022. So they had two last year. Niger had the one in July of this year, obviously, a little over a month and a half ago. Chad had one in 2021. And Sudan had one in 2019. And then they had another one in 2021. And so this is called the Sahel region across the Sahara. And many people speculate a lot of the coups have been happening because most of these countries have insurgent groups tied to Al-Qaeda and ISIS or ISIL. And those groups are armed forces, and people fear that their current administrations aren't equipped to handle it, and other challenges in the country. And so they are happy with military. So some scary stuff going on the continent in certain areas, in certain regions. It's not all areas, not all regions, but many of these countries here in the Sahel region have portions of them occupied by military forces that are tied to what international groups all agree as terrorist organizations, right? And so that tends to have a lot to do with why these coups happen, beyond all of the other issues with economics, economic uncertainty, people not believing in the democratically elected presidents, a lot of times feeling like those presidencies were stolen, etc. So that has a lot to do with the discontent and the belief system that it's time for military leadership and for it to be taken from those leaders. I'm watching my words carefully here, and you guys might understand why. I plan to travel around the continent of Africa, and I want to be able to travel without issue. And so I have to be very careful how I talk about these things. You guys can talk about however you want. I see all kinds of crazy comments and things that people say. I'm always going to take the approach of just, there's always a silver lining. There's always gray areas to this. And I'm just going to report on the facts as they are, with a little bit of my thought process as to why you should understand that not everyone is a fan of military coups, but in some cases you can understand why people are. Okay. So I want to take you through this coup in Gabon because it was a big event that happened recently. So let's go ahead and play. So the national and international community informed Mr. Ali Bongo he's being kept under house arrest, surrounded by his family and doctors, according to these guys. With the defense forces meeting with actually, I should probably for the transition and restoration of institutions. So they call themselves the CTRI. This is the new military rule. I might as well turn off the sound because it is in French. So they put President Ali Bongo under house arrest, as he mentioned, and they took over. The officers who said they represented the armed forces declared on television that the election results were canceled because they had a recent election. Borders were closed and state institutions were dissolved after a tense vote that was set to extend Ali Bongo's family more than half a century in power. So over 50 years in power is how much time he was going to be in power. So again, this is why there were so many people who exulted and were happy about this coup. As you can see, especially the military. So the former president, Ali Bongo, did make a plea for help. Excuse the spelling on the next slide, but just listen to this. Okay, so that's the former president Ali Bongo saying to make noise. Now, imagine he was in office more than 50 years in power, right? So, and if I'm not mistaken, he took over from his father. So, obviously, there were a lot of reactions around the world, right? And specifically around the continent. And much like you can imagine, there are folks in America, when there's a viral moment, they make songs. When it's like a joyful viral moment, there were some folks across the continent of Africa who stepped in and did the same. And so as I talk to folks around the continent, many were happy to see this change. And so I thought I would play for you a song, because the internet is undefeated, as people say. That's what the kids say, where they made a song based on that plea for help. You know what? Let me just play it. Let me just play it. Because I don't know how many of you guys saw this. Okay. Were you guys not able to hear that? Let me know if you guys weren't able to hear that. Ya says, okay, so Ya corrected the record. His father was in for 40 years and he took over. So he took over for the last 10 years. So the family was in power for 10 years. So for over 50 years. Ya said she couldn't hear. YOA Ya said she could not hear. Could you guys hear that song? Give me a thumbs up to let me know if you could hear. On IG, I presume you guys could hear, because that you guys are you're on a different device. But were you guys not able to hear that on YouTube? Let me know. And those of you guys who are on IG, you guys are having a whole other conversation on IG that I can't get to. So sorry guys, I can't see the comments because of the way the things are structured today. Manelik said no sound, really. All right, let's try this again, because that was interesting. I heard it from here, so I'm gonna unplug. Actually, let me see. Let me see, audio defaults. Let's try this again. Someone said you couldn't hear me. So were you guys able to hear that, or are you still not able to hear? Because now we're troubleshooting in real time. I'm now an IT professional. Still not able to hear? Let me know. I see Busy Tunes said from before. I don't catch every live, but I'm always watching. I appreciate it. Thank you. Still no sound. Pro Woman J said still no sound. All right. I'm gonna try to see how I can adjust the sound. It says Mac. Okay, I'll do interview. I'll put a link in the chat, but sometimes it doesn't allow me to put links in chat. So let me just do, I'm gonna have to put the word dot in like DOT.com so you can watch it. Hopefully that'll go through. You'll just have to change the brackets in the dot to just a period. But I'm gonna put the sound through the interview speakers. Let's see if can you guys hear it now? Through the speakers, I mean. Okay, so Mohammed, you said you can hear me, but I don't know if you guys can hear the song. Anyway, I gave you a link to the song. Sorry, it obviously didn't work. So you guys, I'll send links to everything we're talking about here. Actually, just go to my page. Just go to the Instagram page. You'll be able to watch all the stuff. But the general consensus I've seen is that many people are fed up with the West's involvement on the continent of Africa, right? And so I see a lot of folks excited about the idea of coups, and you know, the video actually is a lot of people thought it was hilarious, put it that way. It's hard not to laugh watching it, but you know, obviously there's a lot of nuance to that situation, and I'll leave it at that. All right, cool. So beyond that, you know, last week there was also news that the folks in Niger cut power after the French ambassador refused to leave the country. They cut off electricity and water to the embassy in Niger. So let me just kind of read through the story. So Niger's military administration has cut off water and electricity to the French embassy in the capital. You know what? Let me just make sure we go back to the sound. Anyway, you guys can hear me, even though you couldn't hear the video, right? You guys can actually hear me, right? Just let me know. Give me a thumbs up to make sure you guys can hear me. So the country's leadership has also taken similar action to the French consulate in another area of the country. It basically just said, if you don't comply as other members of the country's leadership, if they continue to help the French in supplying goods and services, they'll be considered enemies of the sovereign people. So that was the latest in the escalation of events with Niger and France. What this means in the long term, we don't know. Obviously, this continues to increase tensions between France and Niger. They've already removed some of their troops. Their troops were there in country helping fight against some of those insurgent military forces that we talked about that have ties to ISIL and Al Qaeda. They no longer have that assistance, and we hope that the folks of Niger can and will be able to keep those terrorist groups subdued. But this also means there's obviously less aid from France. But one of the things that's been pointed out, and I pointed it out on the video I did for African Diaspora News Network, or African Diaspora News Channel, they were taking $2 billion a year, but giving $1 billion in funding, right? So I mean, they were taking far more than they were giving, and in the end, it really, I think we need to get France to change the way they do business on the continent of Africa. I'm not going to say we have to get them out of Africa, because there are some partnerships that seem to be working to some degree. But I think they really need to change the way they're doing business on the continent for sure. It needs to be more equitable and a more fair and reciprocated relationship, right? And I mean, you can see in many of the French-speaking countries, you've had these coups, right? You've had it in Mali, you've had it in Niger, you've had it in Guinea, Burkina Faso, right? These are all countries that the presidents that were in power had really good relationships with the French and with the West. And many people in those countries always felt like those presidents were too cozy with those folks, making themselves rich while the countries were starving and are really poor. And so in those situations, you had military rule take over. And so, this, Niger has taken a really hardcore stance, and they've escalated things a bit. So that's one of the other things that's happened in the last week. And then another story I want to get to is BRICS, what I'm calling BRICS plus 6. I'm probably not the person who coined this, but I'm probably one of the first people to ever post this. This came up in my head. I never saw someone else say this, but I called it the BRICS plus 6. Check to see if anybody else posted this before August 25th. BRICS plus 6. I feel like I coined that phrase. But so here's an interesting thing, right? So you have Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, who are the BRICS nations. There's been a lot of talk about BRICS. They just had their summit in where was it? Where was the BRICS summit? Hold on. It was in South Africa earlier this year. Was it in South Africa again? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You guys can read the story and figure out where it was. But so the BRICS countries actually added 6 new countries. So Argentina, which you may or may not care about. 2 countries I think that are really important because they're African countries, are Egypt and Ethiopia. So you now have 3 African countries represented in the BRICS plus 6. And now the Middle East is represented with Saudi Arabia and the UAE. So the United Arab Emirates is made up of a number of emirates, and one of them is Abu Dhabi, and in Dubai is another one, if I'm not mistaken. These are both emirates, and they're part of the United Arab Emirates. And so Dubai, because people think Dubai is a country, it's part of the United Arab Emirates. And so now that the nation that oversees Dubai is now part of the BRICS plus 6. Iran is an interesting one as well. I think there's some concern with some folks with Iran being in that group. So the Middle East is represented by these 3 countries: Iran, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. Going back to the conversation about France, it's never going to be fair. It was never intended to be that way. That was why they have puppets leading for such a long time. That is the sentiment of many. While A says it's insane, I think this is talking about what was going on with France and Niger. Mr. London Boy for Life says, "Hey Joe, just joined. How you doing?" I'm doing okay. While is saying yes, it was about that. I heard BRICS plus, but not BRICS plus 6. There you go. So I guess the BRICS plus 6 is my thing. I like to rhyme, so it works. Okay, so let's just go through it, right? So Argentina, Ethiopia, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have all been invited to become members of BRICS. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who hosted the 3-day summit of the emerging markets in Johannesburg. Okay, so they were in Johannesburg. The membership will take place in January 1st, 2024. So they're not currently in BRICS. Technically, they will be officially confirmed in January of next year. So just check out this post because there's a lot here and there's some videos in here which you guys won't be able to hear. Unfortunately, the audio isn't working. I don't know why. Just check it out, and you'll be able to follow along. I wonder if I unplug the second screen, will you guys be able to hear some of this stuff? Let's try it. Let's try unplugging the second screen. Let's see if it's still showing that screen. Okay. So we're going to try this and see if it works. I haven't done this as of yet. So bear with me, guys. So who would brick? Okay, hope you guys were able to hear that. Let me know. So Mr. London Boy for Life was asking what is BRICS. Hopefully you guys were able to hear that. If you weren't, check out this post. I'll just send a link if you guys weren't able to see it. Mr. London Boy's Life is asking about Sierra Leone. I'll answer that in a moment. Let me see if I can. All right, let me see if I can send you guys a link to this so you guys can watch it in the follow-up. Were you guys able to hear that now that I unplugged the second screen? What's up, Lenora? Lenora just joined. What's up, Lenora? Let me know if you guys were able to hear that now that I unplugged the screen. Because I don't know what's going on with the sound if I'm trying to play it. So that's the link. You guys can save the link for later and watch along if you weren't able. So Manalix just has a comment. Okay, so there's still no sound. You guys didn't hear the clip. All right. So you guys are gonna have to check out the post. This is not going as planned. So you guys are gonna have to check out the post. Sorry guys, it's been one of those days, so I wasn't able to put this out the way I wanted to, but you guys get the gist. So Manalix says, I think a lot of the problems that are going on are due to the colonizers' influence on the current heads of state and the way the colonizers are still in control. And I think a lot of people agree with that for sure. Yes, that is what many people are saying. So a couple things, they're talking about their own currency. So a couple things the BRICS announced, right? One, they're talking about their own currency. Two, they backed by a gold standard, which I think is very important because the U.S. currency is no longer backed by a gold standard. And where is all the gold in the world, or where's most of the gold in the world? It's on the continent of Africa. So, I think that leads to a lot of people's belief systems as to why the West isn't excited about BRICS. Also, there are some members of BRICS that are already powerful in their own right. And as they get together as a grouping and get support and further grow, it is a formidable contender to the G7. And the G7 is kind of a group of nations that the United States is a part of, and some European nations are a part of. And BRICS is, anytime the U.S. wants to put sanctions on, let's say, Russia, the rest of BRICS, and now the BRICS plus 6, may not put those same sanctions on them. And why does that matter? Because the United States is a strategic partner with, let's say, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia buys a lot of weapons from the United States. They may buy weapons now from Russia. They may buy weapons from China, who knows? But this is just something to think about, right? When you're thinking about these different alliances, right? Some people have this belief system: the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? And I'm always telling people to be careful of that thought process, because although you may not agree with some folks in the West, the alternative may not be what you want as well. All right, let's just put it that way. I think there are pros and cons to every partnership and relationship, and I think it's important to know that just because these groups do not get along with people that you dislike or distrust doesn't mean you should like or trust them. Okay, so just keep that in mind. There are a lot of people doing a lot of things that you may not like or trust, and just because they don't like doesn't mean that you should like one or the other. So just putting that out there as a cautionary. Sorry guys, I exited the studio accidentally. That was not meant to happen. I was trying to find my other window. Okay, here it is. And I'm not sharing the screen anymore, so let me present my screen. All right, so that was the last story I wanted to review today. There's a lot going on, so I'll catch you guys up on another day. But you probably could tell things are a little bit off today, and we'll have a conversation about it at another time. there's just a lot happening in my world right now, and things are still unclear, unknown. So we'll talk more about it and give you more context later. Anyway, back to the discussion. So Jerry Campbell is saying, "Better the devil you know," as they say. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I just think as a continent, I think Africa should be ideally way less reliant on partnerships outside the continent. Ideally, we start bringing more manufacturing to the continent of Africa, because all the raw materials of Africa are going elsewhere, being manufactured, turned into products that are being sold at multiples higher, and then people in Africa are buying them. For example, iPhones, Samsungs. You know how much iPhone envy goes on in the country I'm in right now, or in Nigeria, or in Ghana, and the raw materials that go into making these phones, the cobalts, all of that is made on the continent, mainly in the Congo, and it gets sent out, turned into something else, resold back here. Even chocolate, right? Like Sierra Leone makes a good amount of cocoa. It gets sent out to other countries. Ghana was for a while. I know they made some changes. Oil on the continent, crude oil gets sent out, refined, and then sent back in. And then we buy an oil on the continent where it's derived from for higher prices. I mean, we need to make more manufacturing on the continent. That needs to happen. And intercontinental or inter-country trade within the continent needs to be better, and at the levels in which we're seeing it with Europe. Shout out to Lenora, who will be in Ghana in 2 weeks. Lenora, I will likely be in Ghana in 2 weeks, so let's definitely catch up. We got lots to catch up on. So love to hear how things have been for you. Shout out to Lenora, who I met in Sierra Leone when she was coming to get her citizenship. So now that you're a Sierra Leonean citizen, I see that you can travel to Ghana without a visa. So shout out to you. Medina says, greetings from Brooklyn, NYC. Shout out to you from Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn for a long time. Brooklyn is like my other home. Jerry Campbell says, precisely, the focus should be on finished products, not the commodity. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I think we're gonna call it a night here. Today's live, yeah, I think we should cut it short. I will give you guys more context on what's going on in my life, maybe next week or another day. It has been a tragic 24 hours, to say the least. And I can't give any more details, but just know that, because of what's happened, I'm a little off today. It's been just a very strange day. And, I'm getting all kinds of messages from people and stuff about what's going on. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And so we'll talk about it at a different time. But I think it's probably best that I go now, because I have to have some conversations with people in my family. And yeah, I think it's probably the best thing to do. So with that, as always, I want to thank you guys for always watching. I really do appreciate, all of you for, following along on this journey with me as I've been building content and stumbling through this thing and figuring out what I'm doing. I mean, even though I have a career in advertising and I've been through the process of building a platform before, I've never been an influencer or someone who speaks on camera this often, especially live. And so I appreciate all of you guys who've been joining me through this journey and who've been supporting the channel. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the kind words, guys. Ya says, hope, all is okay. Lenora says this too will pass. Jerry Campbell says, sorry to hear that. Hang in there, Joe. You delivered all the same. Thank you. Appreciate that. Cash says she's praying. All will be well. Thank you. I hope that everything will get better. That's what Will's saying. Thank you. I appreciate it. And with that, guys, well, it looks like there's a lot of comments. So let me just go through some of these comments as they're coming in. Bedina says, anyone looking to manufacture household goods, Fashion Institute of Technology or FIT has a certificate degree programs, learn and rerun. There you go. Learn and return, I guess, is what you were trying to say, right? I'm sure it was learn and return is what you were trying to say, Bedina. Sorry to hear that, Joe. Thank you, Miss P. Appreciate it. I don't know if there's anything else on IG. Just appreciate everyone joining as usual. And shout out to Pearl for letting me use the space. Always kind of a last minute request, and they always are helping. One Nation says, are you safe? I am safe. Yes, but not necessarily in the best headspace. But Voyager Saisha said, take care till next time. Jerry Campbell said, never would have guessed you came across like a pro from the time I saw you on Vanessa Campy's channel. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I talk a lot. That's what I do. I didn't hear, but sending positive energy in your direction. Thank you, Benita. I appreciate it. I haven't talked about it yet, so we'll talk about it at some point. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you guys all on the next video.